In the peaceful village of Birchwood, nestled between gentle hills and verdant fields, life unfolded at a languid and predictable pace. Here, simplicity was the norm, and the residents, bound by ties of community and tradition, dedicated themselves to their local work with a sense of purpose passed down through generations. Days began early in Birchwood. Before the sun even broke the horizon, men and women were already heading off to their daily tasks, many of them cycling along narrow roads, while others waited for the old yellow bus that traversed the village, connecting them to the outside world. "Gilbert, aren't you coming?" shouted Jake, a school friend, as he pedaled uphill with effort. Gilbert, standing by the roadside, watched thoughtfully. His face, marked by an expression of daydreaming, reflected the internal conflict consuming him. "I'm coming," he replied, although his thoughts were far away. At school, Gilbert was known for his quiet intelligence. He wasn't the type of student who stood out with exceptional grades or enthusiastic participation, but his mind was always elsewhere, navigating a sea of possibilities that life in the village couldn't offer. Sometimes, during classes, he would get lost in daydreams, picturing himself at a prestigious university, surrounded by books and ideas. But this was a distant reality. In Birchwood, few pursued higher education, and Gilbert, with limited resources, felt trapped by circumstances. "You need to be realistic, Gilbert." His teacher, Mr. Dawson, a middle-aged man with thick-rimmed glasses, would say, "Use your talent here. Birchwood needs young people like you." But inside Gilbert, flames of ambition burned that could not be contained by the village's borders. In the silence of his room, under the dim light of a lamp, he flipped through college brochures and dreamt of the day when he would leave Birchwood behind. "I just want a chance, Mom," he confessed to his mother, who watched him with a mixture of concern and affection. "I feel like there's something more for me out there." And as life in the village continued its course, Gilbert counted the days, nourishing himself with the hope that somehow he would find his way beyond those hills, toward a future only he could see. Time passed and Gilbert life was woven around his parents' routine, emblematic figures of rural work ethic. His father, James Miller, was known throughout the village as one of the most dedicated tractor drivers, a man whose calloused hands and sun face told stories of countless dawns in the fields. His mother, Evelyn, was the local veterinarian, a woman whose kindness and skill with animals were as vast as the surrounding plains. His parents, James and Evelyn, still held hope that he would follow in his mother's footsteps and become Birchwood's next respected veterinarian. But Gilbert knew deep in his heart that his destiny lay beyond the small village. "Gilbert, you have a gift with animals just like me," Evelyn would say, looking at him with eyes filled with pride and expectation. "You could do so much good here." Gilbert, sitting at the kitchen table, absent-mindedly played with the edge of his plate, his emotions a silent storm. "Mom, I love Birchwood and I love you all, but I feel that if I stay, I'll lose a part of myself I haven't even discovered yet." James, a soft-spoken man, but with a presence that filled the room, set his newspaper aside. "Son, life in the big city isn't like those movies you watch. It's tough, unforgiving. Here, you have a guaranteed, secure life." Gilbert lifted his eyes, meeting his father's firm gaze. "Dad, I need to try. I need to know what's out there, even if it's hard. I don't want to regret not trying." The discussion continued for several nights, with each dinner becoming a stage for debates and emotional outpourings. Evelyn, torn between fear and love, shed silent tears while washing the dishes. James, on the other hand, retreated to the porch, gazing at the stars and pondering his son's future. Finally, on a cold autumn night after long silence, James spoke. "Gilbert, your mother and I have decided that we'll support you. It's not easy for us, but if this is what you need to be happy, then we have to let you go." Evelyn, with her eyes still misty, added, "We'll give you some savings. It's not much, but it'll help you get started." Gilbert felt a mixture of gratitude and sadness. "Thank you," he murmured. His voice choked with emotion. "I promise to make you proud." That night, as Gilbert packed his bags, he knew he was leaving behind not only his home, but also the security and unconditional love of his parents. But something was calling him out there, a melody of adventure and discovery that he simply couldn't ignore. If you were Gilbert, would you want to leave the countryside and head to the big city to try your luck, or would you prefer to stay in the tranquility of a small town and follow in your mother's footsteps? We want to hear your opinion. Please leave it in the comments below. Until the day Gilbert left for the city, it was tinged with a mix of emotions. The morning was cloudy, as if the sky itself shared the Miller family's apprehension. In the modest living room of the house, the atmosphere was charged with silent farewells. Evelyn ran her trembling hands over Gilbert's jacket collar, adjusting it with a tenderness that didn't need words. His father, James, stood by the front door, his gaze fixed on the horizon as if expecting to see something they all couldn't glimpse. But the handshake between father and son held unspoken words, a silent promise of care and responsibility. "Gilbert, my son," said James, finally breaking the silence. "You know what you've promised." Gilbert nodded, his voice a whisper filled with determination. "I promise, Dad, I won't bring shame to the family. I'll honor our name." Evelyn's farewell was more effusive, a mixture of tears and smiles. "Take care, my boy, and remember to call home whenever you can. Your mother will worry." With a tight hug, Gilbert stepped away from his mother and headed for the door. The familiar smell of polished wood and the warm atmosphere of the house enveloped him one last time. He knew he was leaving behind a life of simplicity and security, but he also understood that he was moving towards something greater, a journey of self-discovery and maturity. In the city, Gilbert found a job at the local tannery. The environment smelled of leather and chemicals, and his co-workers were a diverse mix of personalities. The supervisor, Mr. Allen, was a stout man with a deep voice that exuded authority. "You're new here, right?" Mr. Allen asked, assessing Gilbert with a critical eye. Gilbert swallowed hard before answering. "Yes, sir, I just moved to the city." The supervisor nodded, looking satisfied. "Well, you're here to work. We don't tolerate laziness in this factory. Show dedication and you'll be rewarded." Full of hope and ambition, Gilbert threw himself into his new job. He knew he had no experience or formal education in the field, but he was determined to learn and progress. Each day at the tannery was a challenge, but also an opportunity to prove himself and honor the promise he had made to his father while handling hides, adjusting machines, and dealing with the pungent smell of leather. Gilbert began to grasp the true meaning of hard work. Every drop of sweat was a tribute to his quest for a better life and the promise he had made to his family. He was willing to face any challenge, because he knew his journey was just beginning. After long and exhausting shifts at the tannery, Gilbert found himself in the same situation every day, sitting on the bus that took him back to his modest city home, with heavy eyes and a body yearning for rest. The routine was relentless, but he faced it with determination, knowing that each day of work was a step toward his dreams. The bus, with its worn seats and fogged windows, was always filled with tired workers, all eager to get home and recharge for the next day. Gilbert was no exception. The canvas bag he carried held his belongings, including the lunch he carefully prepared every morning. On that particular night, Gilbert was more tired than usual. He had worked overtime at the factory to earn some extra money, a decision that now seemed to weigh on his shoulders. His eyes closed involuntarily, and he found himself struggling to stay awake, swaying slightly with the bus's movement. That's when a soft voice woke him from his almost deep sleep. "Hey, you're about to miss your stop." Gilbert blinked several times, trying to focus his vision. The voice belonged to a young woman with brown hair and kind eyes who was watching him with concern. She held a backpack in her lap and a book in her hands. "Sorry, I was exhausted," Gilbert murmured, blushing slightly with the embarrassment of almost missing his stop. The girl smiled, revealing a friendly glow. "It happens to all of us. This bus can be a real tranquilizer." Gilbert straightened up in his seat and thanked the young woman. As they talked, he learned that her name was Emily, and she was a journalism student in the city. Her words were a balm to Gilbert's tired soul, a welcome break from his exhausting routine. As the bus approached his stop, Gilbert realized that he had found something more than just a wake-up call. He had found a friend, someone who understood the struggle and the quest for a better future in the city. It was the beginning of a new friendship that, unbeknownst to them, would bring surprising twists to their lives. The connection between Gilbert and Emily was about to deepen in an unexpected way. As their friendship blossomed during their daily bus rides, they began to share more about their lives, dreams, and hopes. While conversing on the bus, the interior of the vehicle seemed to transform into a sanctuary of confidences. Gilbert shared his struggles and aspirations, while Emily revealed her love for writing and her desire to become a renowned journalist. They laughed together about the quirks of city life, the strangers they encountered on the bus, and the stories they heard about the city's neighborhoods. "You're the brightest part of my bus rides, Emily," Gilbert confessed one day with a sincere smile. Emily blushed slightly and gratefully replied, "You've brought some light into my exhausting nights too." As time passed, their friendship deepened. They began to meet outside the bus, sharing meals at small local restaurants or simply strolling through the city streets. The exchanged glances held unspoken secrets, feelings that slowly grew between them. One night, as they walked under the starlit sky, Gilbert gathered the courage to hold Emily's hand. "Emily, I don't know how this happened, but since that night on the bus, you've become someone very special to me." Emily smiled, her eyes reflecting the same tenderness. "Gilbert, I feel the same way. You've brought unexpected joy into my life." It was at that moment that they kissed under the moonlight, sealing the beginning of a relationship neither of them could have predicted. They were diving into unknown waters, but the love they shared propelled them to face any challenge the city had in store for them. Gilbert and Emily's story was just beginning, and destiny had exciting surprises in store for them. As Gilbert settled into his new life in the city, he began to feel a profound change within himself. His days at the tannery were long and demanding, but he faced them with unwavering determination. The exhausting routine of the factory, though challenging, was a stepping stone toward his dreams of a better life in the city. Sitting on the small balcony of his modest apartment, which he had managed to buy through significant savings, with a cup of coffee in his hands, Gilbert gazed at the city horizon illuminated by the nightlights. The city was like a completely different world, full of opportunities and challenges he could never have imagined in his hometown. Since Gilbert and Emily always took the same bus, they often conversed, and eventually this friendship blossomed into a beautiful relationship. "How are you feeling, Gilbert?" Emily asked, sitting beside him. She was the bright light in his life, supporting him and sharing every step of this journey. Gilbert sighed and smiled at her. "It's amazing, Emily. Sometimes it still feels like a dream that I'm living in the city. I remember how I used to look out of the bus window and dream about all of this." Emily gently squeezed Gilbert's hand. "You did it, Gilbert. You breathed life into your dreams." Gilbert's eyes gleamed with determination. "And it's all thanks to you, Emily. If you hadn't woken me up on that bus, I wouldn't be here now. You've been my support." They hugged, sharing a moment of gratitude and affection. Their relationship had grown stronger over time, making them a united and passionate team. As months passed, Gilbert continued to work hard at the tannery, but he also began to explore other opportunities for education and personal growth. He attended evening classes to enhance his skills and meet new people in the city. One night, he shared his plans with Emily as they walked through the city park. "I want to do more, Emily. I want to study, learn, and grow. I want to show my parents that my decision to come to the city was not in vain." Emily smiled and squeezed Gilbert's hand. "I'm with you every step of the way, Gilbert, and I know you'll achieve all your dreams." As Gilbert continued his journey in the city, he knew there were challenges ahead, but now he had the determination, Emily's support, and the belief that his dreams were within his reach. Life had taken an unexpected turn, and Gilbert was eager to face whatever the future held. During their walk in the park, Gilbert encountered a young man who was sitting on a bench looking sad. Gilbert felt moved and went over to talk to him. The young man shared that he was facing some problems and didn't know how to solve them, mentioning that the big city sells the idea of realizing dreams but can be harsh. Gilbert empathized with the young man's story, reached into his pocket, and gave him everything he had, which was 50. He told the young man to continue his life and that he had been in the big city for 2 years, and at first it was challenging, but opportunities arise and he just needed to seize them. Afterward, Gilbert and Emily returned to their apartment, and as time went on, Gilbert began to excel more and more in everything he did. Gilbert studied hard and improved himself. He changed jobs until he became the manager of a company. He always called his parents to share the news, but he never returned to the countryside. Instead, his parents would visit him. He made his parents very proud. Gilbert and Emily got married, and 22 years had passed since Gilbert left his small village to chase his dreams in the city. City life had transformed him, molding him into a man of determination and ambition. He had achieved success in his career, gaining recognition in his field of expertise. The city had been generous to him, and he reciprocated by working hard and contributing to the community that had embraced him. On that sunny Saturday afternoon, Gilbert was at home, relaxing after a week of intense work. He was in the backyard, tending to his plants when he heard the sound of a car approaching. Initially, he didn't pay much attention, but as the vehicle got closer, he noticed something strange. It was a fancy car, unlike anything he had ever seen in the city. The car stopped in front of his house and a man got out of the vehicle. He was dressed peculiarly, wearing clothes that seemed to come from another era. Gilbert furrowed his brow trying to understand what was happening. The stranger approached and greeted him with an enigmatic smile. "Are you Gilbert?" the man asked. Gilbert nodded, still perplexed. "Yes, I am. Can I help you?" The man extended his hand and Gilbert shook it cautiously. "My name is Samuel. I know this may seem strange, but 20 years ago you helped me when I was lost. You gave me $50 so I could continue my journey." Gilbert blinked, vaguely remembering that day. "I do recall that, but it was a long time ago. How did you know where to find me?" Samuel smiled, revealing a look of gratitude. "I asked your name and you told me, so I wanted to keep up with you. I knew you would go far. You were a good person and I never forgot what you did for me that day. Those 50 allowed me to move forward and build my life. Today, I'm successful and I wanted to thank you in person." Gilbert was touched by Samuel's surprising story. He never expected that such a simple gesture in the past could have such a profound impact on someone's life. As they talked, Gilbert realized how life was full of surprises and unexpected twists. They spent hours chatting, sharing stories of their journeys over the years. Gilbert realized that even when he helped a stranger on the road, he had planted a seed of kindness that had flourished over time. The encounter with Samuel was proof that life often brings exciting surprises and reveals the invisible connections that exist between people. As the sun set on the horizon, Gilbert and Samuel bid farewell with a warm handshake. It was a pivotal moment in their lives, a moment that connected the past, city life, and the transformative power of compassion. Gilbert was once again amazed by life's unpredictability and looked forward to continuing his journey, knowing that every action could have a lasting impact. You'll surely enjoy this story that is appearing on your screen. A big hug and I'll see you in the next video.